Welcome to Soltron. This is the video review for Mini-Force Trino V and Leobulls. And here they are with like a Mini-Force figure, and you can see they're all pretty much to scale. And here they are with some Earth Granner figures, because that's what they remind me the most of. Okay, let's look at Trino V's tiny little head. So this reminds me a lot of actually Dino Core. It's pretty similar to that. And then his whole body reminds me a lot of that Japanese Sentai series where everything was like cube animals. Yeah, he really looks like he would fit right in with those guys. Because he's very blocky. I think the proportions are kind of bad actually. I think I really just like this guy because of the translucent green plastic. But overall, I don't know, his proportions just don't quite work for me. They're a little bit too blocky, and I just like this guy because he makes the armor for the other figure when they combine. I think that's pretty cool. But overall, I'd say these robot proportions, like his overall aesthetic is probably like a 7. It's okay. It's just not really for me. That Earth Granner T-Rex is just much more my style. So comparing those two toys, the Earth Granner one just wins by a lot compared to this aesthetic. But anyway, so articulation is pretty limited with this guy. He can rotate his arms. It's kind of like on a soft ratchet. I don't know how this works, but it makes the wheel rotate, which is pretty interesting. So it locks the wheel in place when you have the arms on, so the wheels don't rotate anymore. And then he's got this tiny little elbow joint that basically moves this much. There's no click or anything, no ratchets on this. It's going to move that much, and it's pretty soft, so it falls down pretty easily. He's definitely not going to be able to hold anything, which is fine because he doesn't have any hands for holding anything anyway. And then for his legs, you can move out this skirt. It's got a really ugly break right in the middle that just makes him look blocky, which is part of the aesthetic. And you can get a full forward kick, except for his huge knee, like, will block that. So you'd have to bend his knee to get a full forward kick. And then he's got 90 degrees in the knee too. And then he's got a full backward, nothing back there to hinder that. And then he doesn't have thigh swivel or a waist. And then unfortunately he doesn't have neck rotation either, because to transform, his head does this, which is pretty lame. That's really cheap. Like that could have been done a lot better. So anyway, to get him ready for his, well, let's look at what you do for combine mode, since I didn't do that in the last video. Is these pieces actually move up, and then the fist actually folds down for the combine mode fist. And then this is really an interesting thing, is you're going to click the arms back into alignment, and then you pull them out, so you actually get more bicep. So this actually has multiple settings. So you get the short bicep, which is here, for this robot mode, and then for combine mode, you have to extend this and then click it out to get more of a bicep, which is why he has more articulation in his combine mode. So that's the combine mode arm. I do like that what is this, Stegosaurus? That this guy like kind of becomes an arm shield. That's a pretty cool look. I do appreciate that aesthetic. But anyway, to get him into his dinosaur mode, you just do this and then fold up his spines, and then he's all set. And then Tricera, same thing. He's all done. And then he's got pretty cool weapon mode with all these. Look very damaging. So he makes a pretty good looking arm. And then when you are combining this guy, you do have to rip this part off. And this is partly why I think this figure is just a little bit sloppy. Is I appreciate that this guy has the hinge to rotate him so you don't have to parts form him and to turn him into his vehicle mode. And then you have all these clear clips that need to be rotated down, which is kind of pretty tough on your fingers. I can't see a kid like being able to do this. This takes a lot of torquing, and it's very uncomfortable. This is just like not a good solution for this. They should have found a way to use the original combining peg. And then when you're getting him in to his combined mode, you're also going to rotate these down. And then you're going to open up the jaw here, and this is just going to hang off the back. And then you can see his combined mode head, which is still really into this head. So cool. And then, yeah, still could have put a neck joint though. So that's how you get him into his combined mode. But for this mode, you're just going to keep them all pegged together. So thankfully he doesn't parts form. And you can just rotate this up. And then you can probably tell already, well, he does have a couple neat little features. Like he's got these panels on the back of his legs, and you're just going to rotate those down. And then these like help hold in the panels, that's all they do. So you just get those out of the way. And then you can see his leg is just going to rotate all the way up to form the back of his vehicle. And then you're just going to point the toes up to cover him up. And then you just click all this together. And there's his vehicle mode, which is decent. I don't know, it just doesn't look like anything. It's just, it looks like, it kind of just looks like robot parts. It doesn't look like much like a vehicle. But there he is in his like Dino Core vehicle mode. And then with his other couple of vehicles, I think these guys come off looking much cooler. Like they're more sleek. This guy just looks like he's got a bunch of parts they couldn't figure out what to do with. And let's move on to Leobull. So this guy, I think, comes off looking a lot better. Like really great proportions. He's pretty slim. He looks like he could actually move around. He's got regular joints, which is nice. And he just looks pretty cool. This is mostly why I actually got the set, is just because this robot looked cool and their two-part combiner looked really awesome. So this guy I would rate definitely probably like a 9 actually. He's a little bit blocky for my taste, but I think it just works with him really well. Okay, and look at this head sculpt. Like that is really incredible looking. It's overly complicated, but it just works. Everything fits together really well. I think he's just got a really cool looking head sculpt. It's really awesome to look at. And it looks like he would have light piping, because he's got a light bar here. But if you like try to light pipe this, it just makes his whole face green, because it's all made out of translucent plastic. And his eyes are painted green, so you're actually not going to get light piping there, except for his head crest. Jeez. I don't know how to make that less contrasty. There it goes. That's pretty cool. But yeah, really in love with this head sculpt, and his head can rotate. Why? Like none of the other ones have rotating heads. Why does he get a rotating head? It makes no sense. And then of course he does have his standard arm rotation. They all have that. And then he does have bicep swivel, which is pretty rare for these kinds of robots. And he's got more than 90 degrees on the elbows, so really awesome there. And then he's got, he's got like kind of this double skirt thing going on, where you can kick most of the way forward, but his skirt is still going to hit. So you still have to bend his knee because his knee pads are massive. So he does get most of a full forward kick, full backwards. And then if we move this side hip skirt, he's got a full side kick too. And then no thigh swivel though. So that's one place where he could have used a little bit of extra, but, and then no waist swivel. But he's got almost full articulation and he looks cool. So I don't know what happened to the other two robots. All right, and then when you get this guy ready for combined mode, all you do is you rotate the arms back here and they're just going to clip together, and then you rotate these up here, which is also what you're going to do for vehicle mode. And then he's got these two mystery clips back here. I don't know what these do. They're not in the directions at all. They might be for some of the role play items, because I just don't know what those are supposed to be used for. And then his head you are just going to push down as much as you can. So to get him ready for his combined mode, this is basically all you do. And now he's ready to add all the other pieces. So you add the feet blocks down there, you add the torso block to the top, and then that's all he does in combined mode. But to get him ready for his vehicle mode, you're going to actually open this slot up, which is very nice because this keeps the two halves of his body together very well. And then you're still going to close this up like this. These don't serve any purpose as far as I can tell. And then you're just going to close all that up again. And there you have the front of the vehicle mode. Oh yeah, and the other thing you do for combined mode is you're actually going to lower this. It doesn't make that much of a difference. And that's as far down as his head goes, so they all have like visible head syndrome. None of them can get their heads pretty much flush, but this is an okay looking vehicle mode. And then you get this little tow hitch here, which you're gonna need. And then for the buffalo part of this combination, you're going to, again, just sandwich the two legs together on their clips. Okay, there it goes. And then you're going to rotate these wheels up, and I really like how all the wheels end up on his lower legs. That's such a cool design. And then do the same for the other side, and then you're just going to rotate the horns forward. And then there's the buffalo mode, and you get this little nose ring which is made out of clear plastic. It's pretty narrow, but for some reason that's where the connection for this happens. I wouldn't recommend doing this because it's like rectangular and this can catch, and if you're rotating it you can easily break this off, so you should be very gentle with that. And then there's your two lion and buffalo mode, which looks pretty good. Definitely looks like an Earth Granner figure. So let's break out Buffagator and we'll break him into his two parts. Okay, and these are the two torso vehicles. So I think Buffagator looks a lot cooler. He's missing some parts. I couldn't be bothered to go get them out, but I think his vehicle mode looks a lot cooler. And then if the two leg modes, I guess there's not much you can do to turn legs into vehicles. They both end up doing kind of the same thing. They just straighten out and peg together, and they look pretty samey. And then here's the whole set. Overall, I would rate these vehicles, I don't know, something like a 7. They're okay. They're just not made for me. I don't think I'm the audience for these figures this time. Usually the Mini-Force vehicle modes or alt modes I think are really awesome, and these ones are just kind of plain. They just don't really do anything for me. They all look a little bit generic. Oh yeah, and then one other thing I wanted to mention is the actual arm combination that uses these mushroom pegs is not great. Actually, this arm goes okay, but this, no, on this side. This side, this arm just is always giving me trouble. It just, yeah, look at that, it just fell right off. It just angles off way too easily. It's not a very solid connection. The other arm doesn't seem to give me much issue, but this arm just constantly is coming off too easily. So that really hurts my enjoyment of this figure too. I think this set is really awesome and did what it needed to do really well. This set I think is only good because it combines with these guys. So overall, like the fun factor, I think this is a pretty fun set, just standalone. It's a fun robot to play with, and combining it is really simple and straightforward. I would say that this guy's like an 8 for fun factor, and this guy is, I don't know, he's kind of like a 6. He's just not that fun to play with, especially with all his limited posability. But altogether, combining the two together is pretty enjoyable, so I don't know, maybe they average at like a 7. They're okay. But if you're into these figures, definitely check out my links, and you can buy these figures in the near future.